a very special day because in March we celebrate on the 7th the Mahasamadhi of Paramhansa Yogananda. And then on the 9th, the Mahasamadhi of Swamis Yukteswar Yogananda's Guruji, our Param Guru. And because we wanted to support the Delhi group on Friday, we went there for the Mahasamadhi celebration on the 7th. And today we're joining together in celebration of the incarnations of Paramhansa Yogananda and Swamis Yukteswar. And the thing about a Mahasamadhi, it's, you know, life is bittersweet. We know this when any loved one passes. We love them, we don't want them to go. We like being around them, but then we don't want to hold them back. And we celebrate their presence in our lives. This is really the important part of transitioning. When loved ones transition from this world to another, they don't die, they just move on according to their level of consciousness. Of course, the masters come free. Both Fruitarian and Yoganandaji were avatars. They were completely free, one with God, but they came to earth for a specific purpose, not their karma. They didn't have to come back, but because they wanted to serve. They felt the impulse to share the light with others. It's very interesting to watch this process in Swami Kriyananda. Knowing him over a period of over 45 years, I made certain observations. And one of them was very clear that for most of the time that I knew him, he was of the opinion that he couldn't wait to get out. He was ready to go. Done with the physical plane, you know, the whole creation. So really ready to go. But in later years, he began to be filled with joy, filled with the divine presence in such a dynamic way that he began to change. And it's not that the change, the qualities of that change weren't there. He was always born with or he was born with a deep caring for others, the desire to want to know God, but then to share God. And in the end, his love of God and this quality of his consciousness, later in life, Kriyanandaji said, well, I would come back to serve. You know, I would, whatever Master wants. You think, well, we have all experienced this dissatisfaction with the physical plane. The ups and downs. You know, when you go to the amusement park, the first time you go on the ride, it's fun. Up, down, and all around, you're having a great time. But if you go on it again, well, maybe you're still having fun, but if you go on it like 10 or 12 or 15 times, then you might not be having so much fun, and you may even get ill from it. You might get sick from it. And coming to the physical plane is pretty much like that. It seems like fun for a while, but eventually it makes you sick. And one time there was a disciple, and he told Master that he had to go to work, had to go to his job. And Master said, you should just call in sick. Call in sick of delusion. And that's what we need. We need to call in sick of delusion. We need to recognize that we want to be freed from these limitations. But turn around and think about it from the other side. So an avatar is a soul that came up through the ranks just like us. went all the way through the creation, graduated, came home into infinite spirit, now is one with infinite spirit, and chooses of their own free will to come back into this world of limitation to serve. Swamiji often told the story of the three men who found, they were wandering in the forest, they found a big wall. Some area, there was a big wall, and it was very tall. And they were curious what's on the other side. So they decided that somebody had to see. So one man stood next to the wall, and the other one climbed on his shoulders. Finally, the third one climbed up on top of the third one and just barely was able to pull himself up on the top. And so the two that were down on the ground are looking up. What do you see? But the person up on top of the wall didn't even look back, just went over the other side, never heard from again. and oh, now we need to know what's going on over there. So the two fellows figure out a way to raise themselves up, and they figure it out, and somehow the second fellow does get to the top. And the bottom guy's saying, no, don't, let me know what's going on up there. But he gets up to the top, he doesn't even look back. He just goes over the other side, disappears. So now the guy down at the bottom, he's really like, I want to know what's going on over there. So he finds a tree and he puts it up, pulls it down and puts it up against the side and somehow manages to get up on top of the wall. And what he sees is just the most beautiful garden, the heavenly music, and there's just an aura of heavenliness. And he's just about to jump over. And he turns around and says, there's people back in the village. They don't know about this. I'm going to give up this personal enjoyment, this my own enjoyment of this blessing. I'm going to go back and help others. And this is what the avatars do. In the most incredible way. I mean, this story illustrates the directional nature of it. But imagine if you lived in a little closet, just big enough to move around. And there was no windows. You just lived in the closet. And you never saw anything. Or every once in a while, maybe you got a little, like, is there something out there? Something outside? I don't know. Did I hear something? Did I see something? Did I feel something? No, I don't know. I just live in my closet. So now imagine this person gets out of the closet and they encounter the whole world as we know it, with all its variety and all the various things that you can do. And the difference between living in that dark closet and living in the world is huge, yes? The difference between living in this body and being omnipresent in the Satchidanandam is infinitely different. You can't compare them because one is very, very small and spirit is big, doesn't do it. Infinite. Really takes time to think about what is good. What can infinite really mean? Bliss. So now this soul has decided to see. Now they can always go back and feel it. It's not like they have to stay in the body. So Master could go into that state at will. And one of the unique differences between a supremely free soul and just a Jivan Mukta is a supremely free soul can't, well, forget the Jivan Mukta part. It can, see, when you first start going into Samadhi, you go into that infinite state and you completely lose body awareness. And it's like one or the other. Either you're in the body or you're in infinite spirit. But when you get to that higher state, you can do both at will. But the masters hold themselves down, and they do experience the humanity, the physical world that we live in. They can escape at any time. But they live in it as a part of their expression, the way that they communicate and share the light from which they've come. So they're making an incredible sacrifice. Master said that it's as difficult for them to hold their minds down as it is for us to elevate our minds, except that they can do it. We haven't yet. So now we think, wow, this is such an incredible service, an incredible act of love that these souls take on to come into this world to serve, to bless each and every one of us. We think, well, they are uplifting the world. Yes, they represent the light in this world. But for each and every one of us, they represent the blessing, as Kriyanandaji called it, the ray of light, the ray of God's blessing into this world for us as a spiritual family. And so it's a very personal thing for us. There's no one that's more loved than infinite spirit who comes in human form to uplift our lives. And Sri Yukteswar's legacy is very incredible, what he did. You know, he didn't come here into that incarnation to be, you know, draw people to himself. You know, usually we think of his main contribution was to train Master to come to the West. But he was commissioned by Babaji to write an incredible book that had never been done before, called Kaivalya Darshana, the Holy Science, in which he compared the teachings of East and West and showed their essential unity. He, being connected to the scientific era, he was very scientifically minded, and he communicated the physiological reasons why man is actually a fruitarian, not even a vegetarian, but a fruitarian. And he discussed the physiological explanation for that. And that the natural diet of man is fruits, nuts, some grains, and the light, water. And he also explained the cycles of the yugas, which had become completely misunderstood by the traditionalists of the Hindu culture. And their explanation of the yugas had gotten completely out of sync with what was taking place. He also gave us some other incredible lessons. We all have the, I think that we've grown up, each of us has grown up spiritually. No matter where we're at with it, when we grow up spiritually, we have the impression that we need to be perfect on the outside. That if I have one mistaken thought, if I have one mistaken emotion, if I eat one wrong thing, if I do one wrong thing, then I am lost. And only if I could live, although I don't think we think about how long do I need to be perfect for God to come to me. We've been told that God can come to us in this lifetime. But then we think, well, I need to be perfect before God is going to come to me. So, wow, how many days of living in perfect harmony with life do I need to have? Well, Sri Yukteswar gave us some great inspiration in his own life. Can you imagine this? Sri Yukteswar had a little falling out with Babaji, with Mahavatar Babaji. He was upset with him. So Sri Yukteswar, who was infinite spirit, who should have been like everything was perfect, but Babaji, disappeared on him. And so the next time he saw Babaji, he couldn't see him. And then Larry Mahasaya, what do you mean you can't see him? He's right there. And so then Larry had to touch him, and then, but then Sri Yukteswar didn't pranam, which was so, and you can imagine Babaji going, I see you're a little upset with me. Can you imagine all the stories we've heard about Master getting into trouble from Sri Yukteswar? It's really hard to imagine Sri Yukteswar getting into trouble. But there he is. He's had sir, with all due respect, sir, you should not have disappeared on me. I went to get you some sweets. I was doing the right thing. And then Bobby says, oh, you couldn't see me? I was there. But the story is, this was a lesson story, is that his excitement to do the right thing caused him not to perceive the deeper truth. And we do this a lot. In our excitement to do things that we think are right, we miss underlying issues that over time we begin to perceive. So we've got great teachings from Sri Yukteswar, and we also got great examples of the practical realities of life in the physical world. I've always found it inspiring, but that's not the word I'm trying to get, comforting, that we're allowed to make some mistakes, because I've made a lot. And I know that now I can see that God's really not mad at me, that making little mistakes in life aren't nearly as important as doing some good things that are not a mistake, like living the spiritual life. When we turn on the light in our lives, when we connect to the spiritual life, the mistakes that we make become much less important. That doesn't mean we shouldn't try to do our best in every circumstance. But if you make a mistake, God won't hold it against you. We hold it against ourselves. That becomes a negative thinking process. And now we've just, what we say is we've just hurt our own selves. We just caused our own problem unnecessarily. And of course, the story of how Master came to Sri Yukteswar, and Sri Yukteswar said, my own, you've come to me. And 10 minutes later, they were having a disagreement. I'm sorry, but I take comfort from that. You realize that when you're in this world, stuff happens. There's ups and downs. And so we can get over it, accept it. And then what begins to happen is, as we become connected to the spiritual life, and if we look at Yoganandaji's life, his legacy, of course, unbelievable teachings. I mean, his interpretations of the great scriptures of the world are unparalleled. The Bhagavad Gita, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, the Second Coming of Christ, the interpretations, the deeper meaning of the teachings in the Bible. These are a whole new level of understanding about spirit underneath form, and the recognition that spirituality cannot be bound, should not be bound by what we call churchianity. It has to be an experience between each soul and their true reality as infinite spirit. And this is really, you know, if you think about it, how much Master loved India. That in that moment of Mahasamadhi, he spoke of India. And only when he said, and I touched that sod, and then he fell to the floor. He left India and went to America. He didn't want to go to America. He said to Sri Yukteswar, oh, they're so materialistic there. I might lose my connection to God. I don't want to take a chance. But he knew he had to go too, and he was inspired to go. And this is just another expression of his willingness to do whatever it took to accomplish the mission that he was given. And we know from his own words over the years that he had come to this world many times. And if you remember God's Boatman, the Master was a great poet. He was an incredible poet. I mean, his Whispers from Eternity and the Metaphysical Meditations, these are music to the soul, celestial music to the soul. And in God's Boatman, he said, I'll come, if need be, 1 billion times. You say 1 million or 1 billion, whatever. It was a lot. What was it? 1 trillion, okay, even more. He'll just keep coming until, as long as there's one stray soul on the side of the road, he'll come. That's, we just can't even imagine what that is. And so when we come to this Mahasamadhi celebration, we want to remember the immensity of what the Masters have taken on our behalf in a very personal way, and then also in a worldwide way. And they serve, we think that they're only here, but they serve universal. A universal plan, a universal, they represent the light uplifting the whole creation. But that's one of the incredible things about life and spirit, is that as immense as the creation is, there's untold number of souls. God knows and cares about each and every one of us. And Master taught that if we let God into our lives, if we say, instead of when will I get him, if we say, I have him, he's here. Maybe I don't see all of him, but he's here and I see more and more of him. Then we can live with God, even though we haven't fully realized infinite spirit. There is no more important thing that we can do in life. Life's really whole purpose is the expression of spirit and the evolution of the limited expressions of spirit towards infinite expressions of spirit. And Swamis Yukteswar and Paramhansa Yogananda both dedicated themselves, their whole lives, to this service. And for this we celebrate and we acknowledge it, and we want to absorb it. We want to take it into our consciousness. Both of these songs that we listen to, Keep Calling Him, the words of Yogananda and O Master, they both not only communicate ideas, but they communicate a spirit, an upliftment of vibration. And when we attune ourselves to that uplifting vibration, it completely changes our lives. It's one of the reasons I love that chant that we chanted earlier, and that one line, devotees know how sweet he is. Yeah. People think that devotees are leaving it all behind. They have no idea what they're giving up by being worldly. But devotees know how sweet